After his child smashed mine, my brother or his fiancée wanted to get me a new Nintendo Switch. AITA? They suggested I should mature, and their child assisted me in doing so. Therefore, I should be appreciative. At the age of 15, I recently purchased a brand new Nintendo Switch for myself. Doing yard labor, minding neighborhood pets, and assisting a family friend who flips furniture as a side gig helped me save money for months. I don't receive an allowance, and my family isn't the type that gives out money carelessly. For me, this Switch was more than simply a plaything. I took a great deal of pride in it since it was my own prize, my own achievement, my own money, and something I worked very hard for. I live with my mom in a tiny apartment. I'm fortunate to have my own room, and although it's not very large, it's home. Although my 23-year-old older brother no longer lives with us, he still visits frequently, generally when he needs something. He has a 4-year-old son with his girlfriend, who is also 23. Since he was able to walk, the child has been a pain in the ass. He's also not your average hyper-toddler. He intentionally breaks things. His tantrums might go on for hours at a time. When he doesn't get his way, he yells, hurls objects, and occasionally even strikes people. His parents pretend as though he is simply high energy or that it's merely a phase. However, I genuinely believe that before he was even 2 years old, they simply stopped punishing him. Anyway, my brother, his girlfriend, and their child stopped by the apartment around a week ago. I was unaware that they would be visiting. No one informed me. I jumped in the shower to cool off after returning from the gym. I left my Switch charging on the couch in the living room before I entered. I didn't give it a second thought because it was plugged in and in its case. It's also my apartment, after all. I shouldn't have to worry about my belongings getting destroyed if I leave them out for 20 minutes. Correct. I heard screams as I was taking a shower. Not just sobbing, but screaming at the level of a banshee. I didn't give it much thought. At first, if someone breathes improperly near that child, he will have a tantrum. To be honest, at first it didn't even seem like a problem. I assumed he was upset because someone had switched off the TV or refused refreshments. Typical meltdown stuff, you know. However, I was unaware that my Switch was at play. My brother was sitting on the edge of the couch in the living room with a strange expression on his face, as if he was preparing for an impact, as I emerged from the bathroom, still with towels wrapped around my hair. My Switch, or what was once my Switch, was in his hands. There were fractures all over the screen. Like spiderwebs, the screen was no longer even plainly visible. Later, I attempted to slide one of the detachable Joy-Cons back in, but it wouldn't even click. It seemed as though there was internal damage or that the rail had been bent. It was useless. It was destroyed. I felt sick to my stomach. I recall just standing there, very wet, and staring at it as if I were unable to comprehend what I was seeing. My brother had the audacity to appear irritated, as if he didn't want to deal with this. When I asked him what had happened, he informed me that their child took up the Switch after seeing it. Since they are aware of his propensity for using electronics, one of them, either him or his girlfriend, though he didn't specify which, tried to take it away from him. That caused him to lose his temper, and rather than cooling down or giving it to someone, he ran into the kitchen and began destroying it. With his shoes on, he began stomping on it after throwing it on the ground. Even if his parents made an effort to stop him, the damage had already been done. They made an effort to make it seem as though they were acting morally, as if I ought to feel thankful that they made an effort to deny him that. However, it was insufficient. It was far from sufficient. This wasn't merely a coincidence. This was a complete and utterly preventable catastrophe. And since they were unable to manage their own child, they allowed it to happen. I said nothing else at all. I just snatched the Switch from my brother, walked straight to my room, slammed the door, and texted my mom. I didn't want to call and get her in trouble because she was at work, but I was trembling. I wanted to cry. For me, that Switch had significance. It was more than a toy. It was my thing, my labor, my patience, and my savings. Now it was trash. In the end, my mom gave me a call back while she was on break. She was enraged. It's the calm kind of madness that you know will blow up in your face later. I trusted her to call my brother and take care of everything as she promised. About 10 minutes later, my brother, his girlfriend, and their child departed without saying a word to me, though I'm not sure what she said to him. Really, good riddance. Then, however, an odd event occurred. My mom's whole attitude had changed by the time she got home that night. She had lost her anger. She wasn't pressuring my brother to make amends. Rather, she was telling me that the child didn't intend it, that he was simply upset, that he was only 4 years old, and that he didn't understand what he was doing, and that she attempted to buy me a new one when she could. My mom appeared, uneasy when I questioned why neither my brother nor his girlfriend could take responsibility or replace it. I lost it when she told me that my brother was unemployed at the moment and that his girlfriend was only working part-time at a taco truck. She also said that they were doing their hardest despite their financial difficulties. The problem is that my brother doesn't work because he chooses not to. He's been unemployed for almost a year, but not because he's trying and failing. He makes no effort. Jobs are beneath him, too far away, or not worth the money, he claims. He spends the entire day lounging, watching TV, playing Xbox, and browsing through his phone. His girlfriend works, but not very much. Additionally, they are continuously requesting money from my mom to fix their car, buy groceries, or pay their rent. Already, she fills in for them half the time. She is now urging me to have empathy. That switch was worked on by me. It was me who saved the money. I am the one who takes good care of my belongings. I'm not the one with an unruly, unrestrained child. Why am I the target of this punishment? We are currently engaged in this strange, quiet conflict. My brother has not shown regret. Neither has his girlfriend. In my opinion, they never will. My mother is constantly attempting to maintain harmony, as if we are all equally accountable. But my brother makes me want to scream just by looking at him. His lack of wealth doesn't matter to me. You must be ready to replace anything your child breaks if you are unable to restrain him. For a period, that's fundamental accountability. Thus, I sit here looking at this broken switch that symbolizes hours of my life, and the folks in charge act as though it doesn't matter. And in order to keep everyone calm, I'm still supposed to grin and ignore it during family dinners. I'm not calm, though, to be honest. I'm enraged. Furthermore, I don't believe that I should be the one to extend forgiveness in this situation. So, am I the only one who is so upset about it? One update. The entire incident with my Switch occurred a few days ago. I didn't say anything at first. I stopped arguing, shouting, and slamming doors. I didn't speak to my sibling. I didn't speak with my mother. I simply remained silent, allowing the calm to linger throughout the house like a burden that nobody wanted to lift. I reasoned that the least I could do was to quit wasting my breath if no one else was willing to accept responsibility. However, the rage persisted. Instead of boiling, it barely began to simmer. I walked the flat like a ghost throughout those days. My Switch, a broken and inoperable reminder of how little people value the things I work for, rested on the edge of my desk. My mom and I seldom ever had supper together. I didn't say much at all. It wasn't even a deliberate decision. I was simply worn out. I'm fed up with being the youngest and yet the most responsible person. I'm sick of expecting forgiveness without even an apology. I'm sick of being viewed as conceited or egotistical for wanting something that belongs to me to remain that way. I had to say something at last. I therefore waited until one evening while my mother was browsing through her phone while seated on the couch and bluntly informed her that I wasn't just going to move on. I informed her that I wanted the Switch changed, not in the long run, not when everything is going well and they feel like giving, not if they happen to have any spare cash sitting around. I hoped they would genuinely accept responsibility for what transpired, because if the roles were reversed, I would be expected to make amends, no matter how broke I was, if my child had ruined someone else's property. Although she didn't argue with me, my mother didn't stand by me either. She simply sighed deeply and gave me the well-known, "I understand how you feel" line, which in our household simply means that this discussion is finished and that nothing will change. Then, as if I hadn't just begged her to finally defend me, she resumed scrolling. It was already awful. Then the text arrived. Not from both of them. Not even from the girlfriend, who at least makes an effort to act civil around her. No, he was the only one. My brother, who stood there like a background extra in his own mess and let his child stomp on my Switch. The first sentence of the message was, "You need to stop being so dramatic." It was a dismissal rather than an apology or an explanation. As if I didn't deserve every moment of that time, he continued by saying, "You're too old to be playing video games all day anyway." As if I don't receive perfect scores. As if I hadn't earned all I own, while he's been unemployed and taking advantage of our mother. Then came the part where I felt genuinely ill. Perhaps it's for the best that it broke. That thing was destroying your head, as if the cosmos were punishing you for my Switch. As if I was meant to view it as a lesson rather than a defeat. However, it was the last sentence that made me stop caring. "You grew up a bit thanks to our child. He deserves your gratitude. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I read the message 3 times over. I was meant to be thankful that their 4-year-old ruined something I had saved for, something I cared for, and something that made me happy. I was expected to handle that situation as if it were character development, as if I were expressing gratitude to their son for losing his temper and damaging my belongings. I showed my mother the texts as soon as I entered the living room. I just gave her the phone and waited without saying anything. Slowly and silently, she read them. She knitted her brows. Then, as if that phrase mattered, she returned it and stated, "He probably didn't mean it like that," as if that line were meant to serve as emotional duct tape for the catastrophe he created. She continued with the same stale justification that I had heard 100 times before. They're struggling. They're giving it their all. At the moment, they lack the funds. It's simply a difficult moment. Repeatedly, I'm expected to dance along to the same tune that keeps playing. But I have also had difficulties. When things are difficult, I have no right to grumble. When I make mistakes, I don't get a pass. I endured blistering hands and chilly mornings and afternoons working for that Switch, arriving home too exhausted to do much, but take a shower and go to bed. That was something I deserved, and the fact that 2 adults were incapable of doing even the most basic parenting made me lose it. Everyone expects me to act like the bigger person today. Being the bigger person is becoming old to me. I'm sick of being the only one that works hard, respects others, and follows through, while everyone else gets away with doing the bare minimum and calling it effort. I'm sick of hearing that my feelings are too strong. Since I am the only adult in this family acting like an adult, I am sick of being treated like a child. I didn't speak again. I simply returned to my room, took a seat at my desk, and gazed at the broken shell of my Switch. Then I discovered something crucial, so I opened my laptop and began typing. I had to defend myself on my own if no one else in my family would. I made the decision to stop being kind. The second update. I hit a wall following my brother's SMS, in which he essentially urged me to be thankful that his kid had damaged my Nintendo Switch. I was no longer merely furious. I was finished. I'm done being silent. I'm done being patient. Finished being instructed to comprehend, but no one even tried to comprehend me. That's when I thought of my mom's younger brother, my uncle, the only member of our family who has never contributed to the mayhem is him. No enabling, no justifications, no letting it go because it's family. He's always been the only adult I truly respect, and he's honest and direct. Over the years, his small tech repair business, which he began in his garage, has grown into a legitimate shop. When I was younger, I used to hang out there and watch him disassemble faulty laptops and repair phones with patience in a way that felt almost surgical. Although he is quiet, he speaks up when anything is wrong. So I gave him a call. Not an SMS message, not a direct message. I told him everything over the phone. From the second I came out of the shower and saw my destroyed Switch to the moment I saw that awful text where my brother told me I should thank his kid for helping me grow up. I explained everything. The outburst, the broken screen, the damaged Joy-Con rail, my mother's quiet, the guilt trip, and my brother's absurd, offensive, and arrogant demeanor. At first, my uncle merely listened without saying anything. Then, he remarked, "That's not right," and requested me to email him screenshots. Yes, I did. Everything. Every message. Every smug insult. The screen of the device that was once my Switch, which was sitting in a picture I had taken earlier, fractured like ice under a boot. What he was intending to do was not said. He never does. He simply acts. My mother's phone rings in the adjacent room an hour later. She set a ringtone for my uncle, and I know it. It's the one that typically only sounds during tech emergencies or vacations. Not even 10 seconds after she responds, I hear shouting coming from behind her closed bedroom door. Righteous yelling, not furious yelling. The type of shouting that comes from someone who can no longer remain in silence, but doesn't want to fight. I heard my name a couple times, but I don't know what was spoken. You're leading by example, and I heard that this is about more than simply money. It was a long time before my mother came out. She appeared strained when she did, as if her spine had been a wire that had been drawn too taut. However, she didn't speak to me at all, just went by, got a glass of water, and then sat on the couch as if nothing had happened. She wasn't pressed by me. I didn't have to. I wasn't there for that conversation. It has to do with me. And at last, it sounded as though I had support. Afterwards, at after 9 p.m., a knock on the door was heard. Not a text at first. It's just a knock. No heads up. When I opened it, my brother was by himself. He didn't appear apologetic. He didn't appear ashamed. He appeared enraged, as though the truth had just been delivered to him, and he didn't like the way it sounded. Without asking, he entered the apartment. My mother remained on the couch the entire time. I waited for him to speak, still holding out hope that he would at last see how mistaken he was, no matter how remote the possibility. Instead, he started yelling. The self-righteous yelling that's intended to make me feel like the issue. Not yelling, not smashing objects. I had no right, he claimed, to take family conflict outside the family. That I made him feel ashamed. That I was attempting to influence everyone to support me. As if I had committed some kind of huge fraud to discredit him, when all I had done was speak the truth to someone who paid attention. I maintained my composure. His tone wasn't the same as mine. He genuinely scoffed when I questioned him. Did you come here to replace what your kid destroyed? As if the concept were offensive. Then, after everything, he added, you really think you deserve a new Switch just because you threw a tantrum? That's when I knew he couldn't feel bad. Nothing needed to be fixed by him. Someone finally told him he was mistaken, and he couldn't take it, which is why he was here. He chuckled, this dry, humorless sound, and ordered me to mature when I remarked, I think I deserve a new one because your child smashed mine and you did nothing about it. Claiming that I was behaving like a pampered child incapable of handling reality, that this was a passing phase, and that I should move on. I gave him a glance and advised him to give it a try first. He looked at me as if I had given him a slap. Then he turned around and exited via the front door without saying another word. Since then, I have not heard from one of them. The third update. A few days after that last disagreement, the one where my brother stormed into our apartment, accused me of being manipulative, called me emotional, and walked out after I begged him to grow up, I started to feel like things were really shifting. Like a steady, peaceful unwinding of the pattern I'd been trapped in for too long, rather than a big, movie climactic moment where everyone suddenly grasps the light. It was just another typical school day. I arrived home as usual, left my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and entered my room with the expectation that I would only have to finish my schoolwork and watch YouTube to forget how awful high school can be. But there it was, nicely taped, a box on my bed. It was a simple cardboard box with my name scribbled over the top in my uncle's distinctively crisp, blocky handwriting. No Amazon smile or store logo. My heart leaped. I opened it cautiously, as if I were worried that it wasn't for me. A brand new OLED Nintendo Switch was inside. I had seen the upgraded model 100 times online, but I had never given it any thought. It had taken me months to save my old one. For those who didn't have to consider how many lawns they would have to mow in order to finance it, this version seemed unaffordable. Additionally, there was a simple letter that was folded on top as if it belonged there. It said, "This isn't a gift, it's a loan. But it's also a vote of confidence in the only young man in this family who knows what it means to work hard. You earned it once. You'll earn even more in the future. Keep going." I wasn't weeping over the Switch. I sobbed because I was seen by someone for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. Not just the work, not just the broken console, not just the texts, not just the silent letdown. Me. I am the quiet, trouble-avoidant version of myself. The version that doesn't beg anyone to notice, just works, waits, and hopes someone notices. Before entering the living room, I cleaned my face. My mother didn't inquire as to what was in the box when she saw me pass by, but she could see the letters on top. I believe she was aware. That evening, my uncle called and my phone buzzed. "Has the box arrived?" he inquired. "It did," I said. He informed me that a local electronics store is owned by one of his close buddies. Not a large chain, but one of those hip local spots where folks go to get HDMI cables for free or fix broken iPhones. It's possible that his pal is seeking a summer internship. My uncle added that he had already added a positive word, claimed to have a strong work ethic, claimed I had a lot to learn, stated that he believed it could be an excellent starting point. Before he could complete his explanation, I replied in the affirmative. I cannot adequately describe the significance of that call to me. It was more than just the chance. It was about being regarded as someone who was capable, respectable, and worth investing in. Word spread quickly. It didn't take long for the passive-aggressive text messages to begin. I'm not sure if my mother informed them or if my brother somehow learned about it through family rumors. On her Instagram account, my brother's girlfriend made a vague comment about how kids today believe they should have luxury because they have tantrums. Then my brother himself started texting. It wasn't fair, he remarked. Claimed that my whining was being rewarded. claimed that it was absurd that I received a better Switch for playing the victim. He even dared to say that their son was in trouble for something that wasn't really that important. I didn't answer because I knew that anything I said would further stoke the flames, not because I was afraid or guilty. I let the quiet do the talking. It wasn't my brother's predicted hostility that surprised me the most. It was that this time, my mother didn't intervene to protect them. I don't need any lenient justifications, guilt trips, or reminders that he's still your brother. Simply be silent. The Switch caught her eye. She witnessed both the note and my expression when I read it. Even she must be exhausted now. She's sick of officiating games that she never wins. I'm sick of being the one who always acts like nothing is wrong. In the house, something changed. It's just different. It's not loud or dramatic. I now chat to my mom more. Not about the circumstances, but about the potential of an internship and school. Minor details, such as our supper plan. I believe she's making a discreet attempt to let me know that she's paying attention. Listening, perhaps not completely, perhaps not flawlessly. Since then, I have not heard from my brother or his girlfriend. They made no apologies. They made no effort to rectify the situation. I'm not holding my breath, either. I will not be visiting their flat. I'm not going to check in. Just to make things simpler at the next family get-together, I'm not acting. Like what occurred didn't hurt. I earn what I have. Someone else couldn't be bothered to keep their youngster under control, so I lost it. I was ridiculed, gaslit, and chastised instead of supported, but I didn't let it break me. I didn't give up. I defended myself, even if it meant deviating from the norm. Finally, someone noticed that. I'm not forgiving them because a grown adult, whom I genuinely respect, recognized the difference and stated, "That matters. I will not let it go." To please everyone else, I'm not repressing my annoyance, because I'm proud that I didn't give up for once.